Yeah, welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Talk Recovery on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. Thanks for tuning in. We are here in studio live on Facebook as well, so thanks for watching, everybody. Welcome to our personal story guest. This is Jessica. Jessica's in studio. Just learning how to use the microphone.
Yeah.
That's perfect distance. Way to go.
Thank you. Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming in and sharing your story. We've talked to a lot of people.
Yes.
And I know the biggest impact I think that we've heard about, or at least seen, from people's messaging, are these personal stories that, because I'm sure there's a ton of people that know your story, that know you watching right now or listening, and
I didn't tell anybody I was coming on.
Oh, you didn't? What? Just a little nervous about that?
I don't know. I just keep things on the down low.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit, Jessica. Like, I mean, tell us a little bit of like what was your addiction? How long did you use? A little bit of the background.
Well, I started using when I was 12, mainly marijuana, probably, and then by the time I was 14, I was full crystal meth, and that lasted until I was 26.
Okay.
With periods of non-use, and that was mainly my drug of choice, and I started mainly because I was exposed to a drug scene very young. I was bullied a lot in school, and one night I was out with a family friend, and he took me to this after hours called The World and gave me some white powder, and I was home. For the first time in my life, I felt like I knew who I was able to stop. I was able to feel, I was able to be calm, which was really strange because it was a stimulant, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what that was at that moment until a lot of years later.
It's interesting how common that description is.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking about dealing with abuse or neglect, really soul-crushing events, or angst and anxieties and depressions, the introduction to drugs for 99% of us, from what I've heard and what I've experienced, is like that,
right,
sort of a relief, and you described it as home.
It really was, and what really came with this experience was community. For the first time in my life, I found a community of people that were just like me, a bunch of misfit toys, a bunch of outcasts that were kind of young and mainly gay kids. And I'm not gay, but they were, and they accepted me as this very peculiar girl that had a lot of sassy attitude, that was in love with Kylie Minogue, and wasn't really looking for anything outside of wanting to be more. I wanted to just be more. I really literally wanted to fly off handles and just run around crazy, and that's what they wanted to do too, and it was perfect, and we were the perfect match in this underground club, and we did it every weekend until we were 19.
Yeah.
High on crystal meth, high on whatever we really could get our hands on. Unlike me, though, I stuck to just crystal meth.
Yeah, and I guess that's the world we live in, isn't it? People describe a sense of community in the darkest of places.
Totally.
The downtown east side. There's a community there.
Right.
Right? And, so it's more than just the drugs. Do you think that, there was things that was happening in relationships and people, and, how they were treating you, and just that feeling of acceptance?
Totally. I still have relationships with those people today.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And for me, though, what ended up happening is after I turned 19, I ended up moving up to Whistler and stopping all drugs. I wasn't a huge drinker. Every time I drank, I knew that, I would just go really depressed. I would hit deep depression. I would end up completely blacked out. So, I knew I was alcoholic. and I ended up being like suicidal, super depressed, anxious all the time. I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't do anything. So I was like trapped up in Whistler.
And you related that to the substances? So you decided to quit?
I just stopped. Yeah, I just quit. I mean, then there was no amphetamines up in Whistler at the time.
Because of the depression and the suicidal ideation, like that was...
Yeah, I just stopped.
And how long did you stop for?
Well, I stopped until I tried to kill myself.
Okay.
And then I ended up in Vancouver. And I ended up in the concurrent disorders program at Vancouver Children's Hospital. And
how old were you at this point?
I was 23.
Okay.
So after 3 years of being up in Whistler, from 19 to 23. And I ended up going through their intensive program where I was seeing a psychiatrist once a month and seeing a nurse clinician once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Now, respectfully, at this point, like, you're a crazy person.
Yeah.
You're, like, not a drug addict?
Not a drug addict.
And looking back, is there a difference? Was it both?
Well, so...
Were they tied together?
I don't know. So for me, looking back now, I feel like I ended up getting diagnosed with was ADHD.
Okay.
So for me, what I've kind of come to know now is that because I was undiagnosed ADHD, choosing to use a stimulant as my drug of choice for the first, which I probably should have had when I was a child. You know, like through the proper treatment. My mom was super neglectful, right? And so there was sort of this separation for me of not getting the supports I needed as a kid. That was probably why I was bullied, because I was super hyper all the time. I was unable to maintain relationships with other kids. Other kids really put me in corners because my behavior was always out of control.
Quote unquote weirdo.
Weirdo, crazy. Like, you know, like she's not the cool kid. She's, you know, like batshit, right? That kid.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm that girl that didn't have friends because I couldn't control how I was behaving. I couldn't keep up in school. I was always behind.
Yeah.
Not to mention there was always trauma at home, so I was always late. I was always dirty. I was always within.
So you were not accepted by the first community that you were experiencing in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's so sad. It seems like it's what is in front of all our children, you know, and how important that is. Bigger story though, obviously. Okay, so you've gone through this like intensive psych treatment, and what was the outcome?
I was put on Adderall, which is amphetamine. Which is what you currently are on now.
Okay.
And I've been on it off and on. Well, I was put on it, and then at a pretty high dose, and everything was fine. Actually, my life started really improving, but the problem was I didn't have community.
Right.
I lived in this drug scene for my entire youth.
Right.
You know, I didn't have any sense of practical life skills. I didn't have any friends outside of criminals, drug addicts, and, you know, users. I mean, I didn't end up downtown east side, thankfully, but I mean, like, no one really grew up within the community that I was in, and so they were still all using. I wanted out, and I didn't know where to go. So after I went through the intensive drug treatment, I ended up going back to using for a little while.
That was my next question.
Because I didn't know where to go. I have back history of family who was in recovery and did they were in 12-step programs and all that stuff, and family that was also drug and alcohol counselors. So I've been in therapy and counseling my entire life to deal with other stuff. And I didn't think to come to 12-step. I didn't think to go to recovery, you know, because for some reason it just wasn't there or an option for me. And then I found out I was pregnant at 26. And the day that I found out I was pregnant was the last time that I used crystal meth. And that was January 11th, 2012. Yeah, 2012. And then, you know, and then it still took me a long time to come to recovery and participate in 12-step. recovery and find community. Like I went through all these other avenues, like single parent programs and trying to find employment and going to cooking school and doing all these different things, and I still felt so alone. And what ended up I ended up hanging out with all these like moms, and mom culture is drinking culture. So I'm not using drugs anymore, and I start drinking, and then the depression came back. Huge depression, because I'm balancing not wanting to be on my Adderall, knowing because if I'm on my Adderall, I can't drink alcohol. If I can't drink alcohol, then I can't hang out with these moms because that's what they all do. And then I'm depressed. I'm not taking care of my kid properly. Finally, I have a friend that was in the program, in the rooms, and he's like, you should just come. So I came, and I've been sober ever since. I've been back on my meds properly, and my life has improved so much, and I have this huge community of people that just love me and accept me for who I am, and all my crazy and all of my like quirks and all my peculiar ways. And I haven't had that since I was that teenager in that drug scene, and that's what I've been looking for in between all those moments. And it had to take me through all those terrible times to actually get back to this place now where I still have that same community, but in this beautiful, sober, recovered way, and working in this beautiful community where we're all trying to heal and work together for in ways that like give back, and in ways that
Heal the
inspire
soul. Heal the soul, inspire. I don't know if any of us or anybody in it, like in the grip of addiction, can understand that, like what's ahead as far as healing goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's give me whatever medication, put me through whatever treatment or detox to get me off the substance. And once you're off the substance, it's hard not to think that this is it. Like I'm good now. Like I'm going to be okay. And without what you've just described, how hard it is, how hard life is. I mean, I was just telling somebody the other day who's trying to get so I'm like, first thing you got to do is you got to stop using, no doubt. But I told him, like, the truth is, it's going to get worse. Like, it's going to get really difficult. Being clean, being sober, and then not yet having this community established in your life. There's that space between, right?
Yeah.
And that's, do you know what got you through that?
I lucked out because there was a few people from the beginning that were already there.
Okay.
So I didn't have to have that struggle. Like, it was my own personal struggle of me saying...
They were just waiting.
They were just waiting for me, and that was what was so cool. And it was just kind of waiting for me, and then, like, I've managed now to, like, my big thing is giving back. Like, I sit on... I do lots of service, not only within 12-step recovery, but within communities and boards and that support them. So for instance, I sit on the board of directors at the Vancouver Alano Club, which is like a social club that supports not only meetings but social events for people in recovery.
Amazing
I
place.
sit on a committee for a LGBTQ plus conference that happens at the end of May called Celebrate Sobriety, and I help put on the pre-conference events for that committee as well.
Still that little community that was there in the beginning.
And these people are my family, and I have 2 kids, so like I don't get to a lot of meetings myself. I commit myself to 1 meeting a week. But I've found people that will come to my home to share these that help me maintain my recovery no matter what. And there's always something going on, and I'm always within this bubble of like, oh my god, my life feels like it's gonna blow up. Oh shit, my phone works. It's that simple, right?
Like just being overwhelmed day to day, because as you said, you're a single mom, 2 kids, young kids. All of these sort of voluntary service commitments, your personal recovery, dealing with your co-occurring disorder stuff. Like, we wouldn't be talking though if you weren't feeling like your life is a success and like
Of course not.
possible to stay this way and keep getting healthier and keep getting better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it takes like all these different, like I can't just put recovery first for me. Like I have to make sure that my kids are taken care of. I have to make sure that, you know, I'm taking care of everything else myself, you know, like I have to make sure that I'm my well-being is taken care of through self-care, and you know, my finances are taken care of, my family's taken care of, like, you know, like it can't just be. I watch these people that put all their time and energy into just doing meetings and fellowship and those things, and that can't be everything. Like you can take that recovery with you wherever you go, and, and you get that to live a life. And like I get to live a life still too. Like I, you know, have a really active family life. You know, I get to do tons of fun things with my person, like my, you know, like constantly going to things with my kids and experiencing concerts and experiencing all the things that I've wanted to do that aren't recovery events. Like what did I just do that was totally like crazy? Like I went to a Diane Ward concert one time, which was totally fucked up. Did I swear on here?
No.
Oh, sorry. Totally messed up, you know. And I would have like.
But I see that as recovery. Like that's the point of doing recovery,
right?
so
Me
that we
too.
can
Do those things.
experience and travel and
Yeah.
create experiences for our kids and like live this life in society rather than just
Yes.
locked into rooms.
Yes, exactly. But I hear so many like people, oh no, you shouldn't do that, and it's like, well, no, like I have to, like because if I don't do that stuff, then I don't want to be in recovery anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, as far as I see it, my perspective, recovery allows me the power and the opportunity and responsibility to make sound decisions, and sometimes those are a little bit skewed, so it's good to check with people, but at the end of the day, you know, I mean, yeah, I know where I'm not gonna go.
Yeah.
You know, and where I can't. And there's also like the experience of knowing if you're in a spot where you're not comfortable, like you can go, you can leave. There's the exit sign right there.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but yeah, some people, they have to take care of themselves and be really protective of that. So to each their own, and we get to be that individualized process. Yeah, we're a final minute here. Wow, that went quick. What is it? Last words, last message. Somebody's listening, going through it. What can you say?
Go to celebratesobriety.ca and come to the conference. Really, that's it. I mean, like that. Come and join us in this recovery community. It's worth it, you know.
When is the Celebrate Sobriety event?
Oh, it's an LGBTQ plus conference that happens at the May 22nd to 24th at the Vancouver Cultural Centre, Croatian Cultural Centre, and it's a huge roundup where all A's are welcome to get recovered and have some fun.
Jessica, thanks a lot for coming in today, sharing your story. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll have that date up on our website so that everybody knows where to go and where to be. Thanks for tuning in. Talk Recovery on Vancouver Co-op Radio, 100.5 FM. See you next week.
I'm so nervous.
This is for you, sweet thing.
Good job, Jessica.
Okay, I got so nervous.
Yeah, yay!